Hey, good afternoon, everyone. First off, let me apologize for taking so long to put anything new out. My battle with cancer, getting the chemotherapy, has just kept me totally fatigued and without hardly any energy at all. Hopefully, we'll be over this real soon and we'll be able to get back on track with putting out one of these a week. But I think I feel well enough right now to try to put this one out, so here we go. Conan Part 14, Your Words Count. In this one, we will take a little time to go over some of the legal definitions as found in Black's Law 4th edition revised, and they raise more questions than they answer. Not all will raise questions, as they'll be easy to comprehend and self explanatory. But first, let's take a look once again at Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Now, in my opinion, this means that everything we say contains either words of life or words of death. There is no in between, and our words do indeed contain power. So let's start. Preside, to occupy the place of authority or of president, chairman, moderator, etc., to direct, control, or regulate proceedings as chief officer, or to preside at public meetings, to preside over the Senate. To preside over a court is to hold it, to direct, control, and govern it as the chief officer. A judge may preside whether sitting as a sole judge or one of several judges. Presidential electors, a body of electors chosen in the different states whose sole duty it is to elect a president and vice president of the United States. Each state appoints, notice it says appoints, they're not elected, in such manner as the legislator thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state is entitled in Congress. The usual appointment is by general ballot, so that each year in a state votes for a whole number of electors to which his state is entitled. See contradictory information. Up above it said appoint. Now here it says that they're elected by general ballot. So we've got to figure out which one it actually is. From the U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in Congress. So again, in the actual Constitution, it says appoint. So that means they're definitely not going to be elected by any type of general ballot. Now, we may be able to say that they're going to base these appointments based on how the votes for the general election or the federal elections or state elections turn out. But we don't really know that because all we've got here in the Constitution is they shall appoint, as the legislature thereof may direct. And trust me, I've dug into Kentucky's and it's really very hard to understand, but basically it appears that the electors of Kentucky are appointed based on whichever party is elected. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for two persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. So, and then this is just basically all the requirements of how they're elected and how vice president and president's elected and how the certificates are then counted. So I'm not going to read all this to you, but you can always pause and read it if you wish. Okay, now here you may want to check your state constitution to see what it says about electoral college. And you may be surprised at what you find. I know I sure was. Leave a comment if you do the research and are surprised about what you found. So let's move on. Administration. In public law, the administration of government means the practical management and direction of the executive department or of the public machinery or functions or of the operations of the various organs of the sovereign. direction or oversight of any office, service, or employment. The term administration is also conventionally applied to the whole class of public functionaries or those in charge of the management of the executive department. A lot of ors in there on how this administration can actually work. Unfortunately, it's not and or, it's or, meaning that it's going to be either this way or that way or this way or that way. So administrative connotes of or pertains to administration, especially management, as by managing or conducting, directing or superintending the execution, application, or conduct of person or things. I don't like the idea that they're going to manage, direct, or superintend me as a person at all. How about you? Particularly having the character of executive or ministerial action. In this sense, administrative functions or acts are distinguished from such as are judicial. Not surprising, have known that for a long time. Synonymous with executive. An administrative act concerns daily affairs as distinguished from permanent matters. Excuse me. Administrative acts, acts of an officer which are to be deemed as acts of administration and are commonly called administrative acts and classed among those governmental powers properly assigned to the executive department are those acts which are necessary to be done to carry out legislative policies and purposes already declared by the legislative body or such as devolved upon it by the organic law of its existence. Administrative agency, an agency of the sovereign power, charged with administering particular legislation. Examples are compensation and industrial commission. So we've talked about this, and if you go back and watch some of my older videos, you'll see that this all makes sense if you can comprehend what it's actually saying. Okay, now something a little different, but as much a part of all this, it should help tie this together in some small manner. If nothing else, it should bring into focus where this is all going. Private law, as used in contradistinction to public law. The term means all that part of the law which is administered between citizen and citizen, or which is concerned with the definition, regulation, and enforcement of rights in cases where both the person in whom the right inheres and the person upon whom the obligation is incident are private individuals. So do you understand what that's saying? We have the right to actually create law called private law that is administered between us as citizens. Private person, an individual who is not the incumbent of an office. Society, an association or company of persons, generally unincorporated, united together by mutual consent in order to deliberate, determine, or act jointly for some common purpose. In a wider sense, the community or public, the people in general. Special privilege in constitutional law, a right, power, franchise, immunity, or privilege granted to or vested in, there's that word or again, it's not one, it's one or the other. A person or class of persons to the exclusion of others, and in derogation of common right. So can you understand what they're actually saying with this? These special privileges have been granted to our representatives, no matter whether they're in the House of Representatives or the Senate. Not to us, but to them. Contract. No, only got that which applies. A promissory agreement between two or more persons that creates, modifies, or destroys a legal relation. An agreement between two or more parties, preliminary step in making of which is offered by one and acceptance by other, and in which minds of parties meet and concur in understanding of terms. It is an agreement creating obligation in which there must be competent parties, subject matter, legal consideration, not lawful, but legal consideration, mutuality of agreement, and mutuality of obligation. The agreement must not be so vague or uncertain that terms are not ascertainable. A contract or agreement is either where a promise is made on one side and assented to on the other, or where two or more persons enter into agreement with each other by a promise on either side. Okay, now for refresher time. Democracy, that form of government in which the sovereign power resides in and is exercised by the whole body of free citizens, as distinguished from a monarchy, aristocracy, or oligarchy. According to the theory of a pure democracy, every citizen should participate in the business of governing, and legislative assembly should comprise the whole people. But the ultimate lodgment of the sovereignty being the distinguishing feature, the introduction of a representative system does not remove a government from this type. However, a government of the latter kind is sometimes specifically described as a representative democracy. Town form of government constitutes pure democracy as distinguished from representative government. Oh, pardon me. Democracy is loosely used of governments in which the sovereign powers are exercised by all the people or a large number of them, or specifically in modern use of a representative government where there is equality of rights without hereditary or arbitrary differences in rank or privilege, and is distinguished from aristocracy. In modern representative democracies, as the United States and France, see, they've right there, they're telling you our government's a democracy. Through the governing body, that is, the electorate, is a minority of the total population. The principle on which the government is based is popular sovereignty, which distinguishes them from aristocracies. Republic, a commonwealth, that form of government in which the administration of affairs is open to all the citizens. In another sense, it signifies the state, independently of its form of government. So a republican form of government, that is very strange that it signifies that our government is actually a state. A federal government is a state. Sovereign states, states whose subjects or citizens are in the habit of obedience to them and which are not themselves subject to any other or paramount state in any respect. The state is said to be semi-sovereign only, and not sovereign, when in any respect or respects it is liable to be controlled, like certain of the states in India, by a paramount government, i.e. or e.g. by the British Empire. That's out of Brown. In the intercourse of nations, certain states have a position of entire independence of others and can perform all those acts which it is possible for any state to perform in this particular sphere. These same states all have also entire power of self-government, that is, of independence upon all other states as far as their own territory and citizens not living abroad are concerned. No foreign power or law can have control except by convention. This power of independent action in external and internal constitutes complete sovereignty. Sovereign power or sovereign prerogative, that power in a state to which none other is superior or equal, and which includes all the specific powers necessary to accomplish the legitimate ends and purposes of government. Sovereign right, a right which the state alone or some of its governmental agencies can possess, and which it possesses in the character of a sovereign. for the common benefit and to enable it to carry out its proper functions, distinguished from such proprietary rights as a state, like any private person, may have in property or domains which it owns. Proprietary, a proprietor or owner, one who has the exclusive title to a thing, one who possesses or holds a title to a thing in his own right. The guarantees of Pennsylvania and Maryland and their heirs were called proprietaries of those provinces. As an adjective, belonging to ownership, belonging or pertaining to a proprietor, relating to a certain owner or proprietor. Again, apologies. Proprietary articles, goods manufactured under some exclusive individual right to make and sell them. The term is chiefly used in internal revenue laws of the United States. Proprietor, one who has the legal right or exclusive title to anything. In many instances, it is synonymous with owner. A person entitled to the trademark or a design under the Acts of the Registration or Patenting of Trademarks and Designs is called proprietor of the trademark or design. One last word, in my opinion, will play into providing that this all goes back much further than we all thought. Prince, in a general sense, a sovereign, the ruler of a nation or state, more particularly the son of a king or emperor, or the issue of a royal family as princes of blood, the chief of any body of men. Okay, now starting with part 15, and this has changed, we're not going to be doing this part, but it is coming a little bit later on. So we're going to skip this for now. Okay, remedy, that means by which a right is enforced or the violation of a right is prevented, redressed, or compensated. Remedies are of four kinds. By act of a party injured, the principal of which are defense, recaption, distress, entry, abatement, and seizure. Number two, by operation of law, as in the case of retainer and remitter. Number three, by agreement between the parties, e.g. by accord and satisfaction in arbitration. And number four, by judicial remedy, e.g. action or suit. That should be fairly easy to comprehend what they're saying there, so I'm not going to try to take the time to explain it as my voice is getting ready to give out. Strictly speaking, remedy is no part of the action, but as a result thereof, the object for which the action is presented, the end to which all the litigation is directed. Remedies for the redress of injuries are either public by indictment, when the injury to the individual or to his property affects the public, or private, when the tort is only injurious to the individual. Rescind, abrogate, annul, avoid, or cancel a contract, particularly nullifying a contract by the act of a party. To declare a contract void in its inception and put an end to it as though it never were. Not merely to terminate it and release parties from further obligations to each other, but to abrogate it from the beginning and restore parties to relative positions which they would have occupied had no contract ever been made. Revoke, to annul or make void by recalling or taking back, cancel, rescind, repeal, reverse. Writ of right, a writ which lay for one who had the right of property against another who had the right of possession and the actual occupation. The writ properly lay only to recover corporal hereditaments of foreign estate in fee simple, but there are other writs, said to be in the nature of a writ of right, available for the recovery or incorporeal hereditaments of a land for a less estate than a simple fee. Originally, a writ of right is so called because it orders the feudal lord to do the right thing to the demandant plenum rectum tenere, But when possessory actions have been established in the king's court, right is contrasted with cession, and all writs originating proprietary actions for land come to be known as writs of right. In another sense, a writ is grantable as a matter of right as opposed to a prerogative writ, which is issued only as a matter of grace or discretion. There is no legal definition for remove, so going with the removal of causes as it best fits. We'll include what's applicable. Oh, remove, to dismiss from office. 4, to get rid of, eliminate. Declaration and pleading. The first of the pleadings on the part of a plaintiff in an action at law, being a formal and methodical specification of the facts and circumstances constituting his cause of action. It commonly comprises several sections or divisions called counts, and its formal parts follow each other in this order: title, venue, commencement, cause of action, counts, conclusions. The declaration at common law answers to the liable, in ecclesiastical and admiralty law, the bill in equity, the petition; in civil law, the complaint; in code pleading, and the count in real actions. Allegiance, obligation of fealty and obedience to a government in consideration for protection that the government gives. The citizen or subject vows an absolute and permanent allegiance to his government or sovereign until he becomes a citizen or subject of another government or another sovereign. The alien owes a local and temporary allegiance during period of his residence. Supreme, superior to all other things. Very easy to understand what that means. Comprehension is very easy on that one. Excuse me again. Supreme power, the highest authority in a state, all other powers in it being inferior thereto. At some point, these words will become very important. Not sure if they should be at the beginning or not. Still working out how this untaught history should be presented. Get it figured out soon. Okay, and this is a good point to stop. Again, some of the words here will become important later as we move into other areas, in my opinion. We limit what is here to prevent information overload. Okay, if you have found this to be beneficial in any way, then please check out and give a like to my YouTube and Rumble channels. Also, remember to share with family and friends, especially in other countries, as we are in a global war against evil. And this is important for them as well. God bless, with continued blessings and gratitude to all of you. Everyone have a blessed day. Thank you so very much.